Hey guys, so are you new and trying to learn commands? Well, I have some really good tips today. I'll teach you some tips. This won't make you obviously a pro because that will take time, but this will get you your foot in the ground for learning just the basic commands, um, and just kind of getting an idea of what you're dealing with. It's commands aren't really hard. At least when it comes to the basic commands that I'll show you. But commands really only get difficult when it comes to figuring out selectors, strings, and such, and I'll teach you what that is later in the video. But today, I'm going to show you how to work the menu with like autofilling, and I'll first teach you some simple commands, and once I teach you that, then I'll show you the rest. So let's get started. So, for the first command, we have /give, okay? So all you have to do is you're going to put this slash here. So that's how you start commands. And you'll do give. And if you look here, so there's such thing as autofill. If you're on Xbox and you press right on D-pad, it scrolls through the things. And if you press left on D-pad, it goes back. So this is really useful for going through stuff and just trying to, you know, it makes it quicker, and the process becomes a lot less slower. And I do this all the time when I do my commands. So if you look here, A is all players, E is all entities, P is the closest player, R is a random player, and S is yourself. So what these are called selectors, or the targets. So when you do the @ and you want to choose like what you want to do for, let's say you have, like, you're just doing this in chat for now, right? I usually just do @s. So I just give it to myself. You could do @p as well. @p, it'll also only give it to yourself if you're doing it in chat. But if you're doing it in a command block, @s won't work unless you're using it on an execute. And that's a more difficult command, which I can and will teach you in a little bit. So we're going to start with /give @s, and let's give ourselves TNT. So you'll do T and T, obviously. And so, same as before, you can autofill. So going back and forth, you can autofill that. And I can give you another example. Pressing, let's do A and C. So as you can see, I'm scrolling through the stuff, just pressing right in D-pad, and you can notice I'm scrolling through the boxes as well, and that's just me going right and left. And once I, let's say I want to give myself a KC of stairs, right? Then there's also, I'll use my cursor here, so you have the amount. So whatever is like white and not grayed out like this, then that's what you're on. So like these two are whited out because we already did these, but this one's white out and the next one is grayed out, so that means we're on the amount. So I want to give myself 64, and now if you notice, now this is white, so this is data. Really, data comes from like 0 to a certain number, so let's say 1, then some blocks of the data doesn't really change anything, but data, basically, if there's a block that has multiple variants and it doesn't have its own like name for itself, then you use the data. Like, let's say it's just called planks, then if you want dark oak planks, you have to use data. So scrolling through those numbers there will allow you to get that. And then components, I'm honestly not sure what that is for, but I'm pretty sure this is just how you end it off. So I showed you how to do that, so I'll just get rid of these here. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you /clear. So using what I taught you with the give, you're just going to do /clear, and then let's do @s, and you can also choose what you're clearing from the person. So if I just do this, it'll clear everything in my inventory, which I don't want to do. So we'll just do apple. We'll just clear an apple from my inventory, which I don't have. If you see top left, could not clear the inventory, no items to remove. So I'll just get an apple here. So if I go, I believe it's here, yeah. So I'll grab an apple, and if I do this again, and this is another thing, you can scroll through recent commands. So if you're also on controller, or if you're on keyboard, tab is what pulls up stuff, or autofills, I should say. The arrow keys is how you scroll through the stuff. But on controller, you would use up on D-pad, and now let's scroll through, down on D-pad to go back. So going up, so up on D-pad, I'm scrolling through. Make sure the text box isn't on the screen, because if it is, that won't work. That's just how you go through the text box. So you have to close the text box, and then you can scroll through. So that's a really good tip. And so we'll go back to the clear, and if you notice here, we're going to the data and the max count. So I'll show you what that does. So the data, we're just going to do 0. And then the max count, we're going to do 3. So this will only clear 3 apples. So if I go back here and I give myself 5 apples and I do this again, it only cleared 3 and now I have 2. So using this, the max count, so this, the first number is the data. So apple only has 1 data because there's no other variants besides the golden apples, but those are their own item names, so you don't need to worry about the data for the apples. So you would just do, if something doesn't have any other data, you would just do 0. And for the max count, that's just like how many you want to be cleared from their inventory. So I want 3 to be cleared, and as I showed you, it works. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to /kill. So let's say you have a bunch of mobs in your world and you want to just kill them all because there's like, I don't know, 30 million and you want them all dead because they're lagging your game. So what you would do, so I'm gonna kill the cows and then I'll kill the sheep. So I'll show you here. So you're gonna do /kill, and then for entities like mobs, you can't do anything that involves P or A because those are only for players, as you can see in their name. And if you see @r random player, if you use an execute, and @r depending on what the entity is, can work on certain entities. So, but that's for later. That gets more complicated. So you're just gonna do /kill @e, and this is very important. This is where the brackets come in. So when I put in this bracket, you'll see all of this stuff. So this, a lot of these just involve position, like the R. All of these involve position, and this is level, for example, level max. This is count, more position, and then it seems overwhelming, which honestly I don't blame you. It does look a little overwhelming, but from learning most of this stuff, the hardest out of all of these would have to be the R, and that's really it, just the R, because that gets, like, that involves certain math. So we're gonna do type. Type is for mobs. Like, let's say I only want to kill cows, you know, so I would do type, and then you do equals, and then you can see all of the entities. So you can see area effect cloud. That's because it's an entity, and that comes from lingering potions. So it's not just mobs. It, like, projectiles, anything like that. So anything that can spawn in, like, naturally or through like other potions or whatever, those are also a part of this list. So we're just gonna do type equals cow. And then now, if I do this, it kills all of the cows, right? And now you can see both sheep in view. So now I'm going to kill the sheep. So what you're going to do is do /kill, and then the type equals, and then you're just going to do sheep. And then boom. Now the sheep are dead. And that's how simple the kill is. If you don't kill everything in your map and you have a bunch of stuff that you want to save, then you can do that. And now I'm going to show you another thing with the bracket. So here I want to kill only 2 of the cows. So what you're going to do, you're going to do C equals and then 2. So just like what I showed you with the max count for the items, this is basically the same thing. It'll only kill 2 cows. And that will be the nearest cows to me. So I killed the 2 cows that were nearest to me and saved the other one. So whenever you're trying to kill entities and you only want a certain amount to die, and or just a certain type to die, then you would use this here. Okay, so now we're going to move on to /TP. So this is a very important command. This is used in this is pretty much used in every map that's really ever been made. I mean, it's a very important command. So I'm just going to TP myself and I'll get a set of coordinates. So if you notice here, it allows me to TP myself to another entity. So if I wanted to, I could TP myself to myself, and boom. If you see in the top left, you have been teleported to Battlefront 7. So you can do that. So that's the victim, which is me, and then the destination, and then that's the next selector. Now, let's say you want to TP yourself, I don't know, up 5 blocks. You can do that with these tildes. Boom, up 5 blocks. So experimenting with these tildes too is very important. You can also, let's say, instead of 5 blocks 4. So instead of that, we'll do that. And you could also use these arrows, and this involves the way you're looking. So if wherever I look and I do this, so if I look up, I TP 5 blocks forward. So that's basically what the arrows are for. It's wherever you're facing, it'll TP you in that direction of wherever your number is, which it can be here, here, and here. So these are the 3 spots. It can't be behind this last tilde / arrow, whatever you have in this spot here. And so if you want a coordinate, this is what I would recommend. So you could place a block and find the center of it, which will allow you to autofill. And now if I get rid of this, I can just do this. Boom, boom. Autofill. Autofill. Boom. Get rid of that. And then do. And then that's all you have to do. Now, or you could just keep it simple, and if you look in my position in the top left, it's 0, -59, 0. So I could just get rid of that. 0, -59, 0. Boom. Now I TP here. And the TP is really simple, so that's all you have to do for that. So now we're going to move on to /enchant. So I'm just going to get myself a sword and an axe. Alright. We're going to do, so we're going to do /enchant at yourself. And then these are all the enchants you can do. So I'm just going to give myself sharpness. And then this is the level. The number is the level of sharpness. So I want to give myself sharpness 5. And now I have sharpness 5. But let's say you want the command to only give sharpness 3 and not anymore. So if I do sharpness 3, right, I have sharpness 3. But if I do it again, the selected enchantment can't be added to the target. So it's because there used to be a bug where it would do, like, it would become sharpness 4. But they fixed that, so now it'll only be sharpness 3. So now for the axe, I want to give myself sharpness 3. I did that. But I also want to give it efficiency. But I want it to be 1. So I'll do efficiency 1. And there we go. Efficiency 1. And that's how you enchant. That's like one of the easiest commands you can do. You just have to know what enchants you have and what you can choose from, and that's really it. Moving on, we are now going to do spawn point. So let's say I want to spawn, I don't know, right here. So looking at the coordinates on my top left, it's -2, -60, -4. So I'll just do /spawn point, okay, at S. And if you want, you could also do tilde, 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 which would just make it your current position. If you look in the top left, now, whatever that tilde, tilde, tilde was, it's that position. So now my spawn point's here. But let's say I want to just do it manually. So I'll do, so my current position is 0, -60, -4. So now I'll do 0, -60, -4. And now if you look, my spawn point is currently there. So if I go into survival, and knowing what you learned earlier, if you do /kill and you do @S, you'll die. And now I spawned here. So let's say I do the tilde again and I put it here. So now if I die, I spawned here. If I go over here, I spawn back here. So I'll just reset it back here. Now my spawn point is back at the center. Here's another really easy command. It's just /game mode. So all you have to do is game mode here, and then these are all the options that you have. The abbreviations A, C, and D, and S. So A is adventure, C is creative, D is default, which is, and then S is survival, and then the default is if you go here to settings in your world settings. My default game mode is creative. So whatever your default game mode is, then it'll just set it to whatever it is in the settings here. And so if I go back, well, I gotta retype it. If I go back, I want to set myself to adventure. So you would do slash game mode A and then at S. Or if you're in chat, you could just do that. You don't need to do the selector for chat. But if it's in a command block, then you need a selector. So I want it to do me. So if I do that, switch it to that, then yeah. I'm gonna go back, then I'm back to creative. So that's how you do game mode. Okay, so we just have a few commands left. So now I'm gonna show you effect. So another easy command, you just do slash effect. We're just gonna do, we'll do at A. I'll just show you at A. I want to give myself slow falling. So I'll give myself slow falling. And now if you look down here, you want to pay attention to this because this tells you what you need to do next. So I have the effect, which is the slow falling, and now how many seconds I want it to do. So I want it to do for, we'll just do 9 seconds. So now if I press space, now I'm on the amplifier, which that basically means like the scale of slow falling. I just want it on 0, and 0 is just like the lowest amount you can do. And this is very important if you don't want to see the particles. So here I'll switch it from 9 seconds to 3. So if I'm in third person, you can see the particles, right? But if I go back here and put the amplifier to true, now you can't see the particles. So if you ever want to hide the particles and you don't want people, like if you want to go invisible without the particle effects, so you're like fully invisible, then you can do that. So that's all you have to do for the effects. It's pretty simple. And so now we're gonna do set block. So this one is also very easy to learn. So let's do an easy coordinate. We'll just do this one here. So my current position is 0, -60, -8. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do slash set block 0, -60, -8. And now you get to choose what block you want to fill it. I want to do anvil. And you can also choose the current block state depending on which kind of block you're using. But I'm just going to use, which you would also again use a number for, I believe. But you'll do anvil, and then boom, there you go. And you can also choose which direction it faces. So learning what you learned earlier with the brackets, if you do the bracket after the block type, then you do, you can just autofill, you don't have to type all that out. So you would do that, and then you do equals, and then now you can choose which direction the anvil faces. So now if I do that, so that was east, I won't show you all of them, I'll just show you the ones that turn. Now I'll do north. And so that's how you basically turn the anvil with the set block, so if you want it to face a different way. I will also show you another block here. Let's do a button. Buttons can be kind of confusing. We'll do a bamboo button. So learning what you learned, bracket, and now button pressed bit. So if you do this, that means the button will spawn pressed. So as you can see, it breaks. So if I were to put like I'll just do this for now. So if it breaks, then that means you have to do a different facing direction, which I will show you here. So these are all the numbers, so I'll just start with 0. Alright, and you basically just keep increasing the number until it spawns on the ground. And if you notice, the button is pressed. And once you click it, then it unpresses. Oh, I guess not. Okay, I guess it stays pressed. But let's say you don't want it to be pressed. Then instead of having it be true, you can just do false. And if you don't want to do the whole false, like button pressed equals false, you can just completely remove it, and then it won't be pressed. And now you can press it. And if I show you here, that's the difference. So there it is unpressed, and there it is pressed, and it stays pressed. So knowing that, that's how you do a set block, and that's how you can do certain datas for it. And now we're going to do slash fill. So this does take time to get good at, but it's honestly, it doesn't take like a lot of practice. You just have to do it a couple times and then you're good. So looking here, I'll just do, this is what I do with my slash fills. First, I find the corners, right? So I want it to slash fill from there to here. Okay, so it doesn't matter which corner you start with, but whenever you're doing slash fill, you always want to do one corner all the way to the opposite corner. You want it to be to the opposite corner. You can never do a different shape. It's only going to be like a square rectangle shape depending on how long it is. So you can never like do a circle. It can't do that. So you're just going to do slash fill, and make sure you watch closely. So you're going to do slash fill, okay? And then if you look here, there's a tilde and the coordinate. So if you see that coordinate, all right, if I just put that in chat, if I go here, that first coordinate, -14, that's the coordinate of the block. So what I do is I autofill, right? Go to the next one, autofill. Go to the next one, autofill, right? And then what I do is just so it saves in chat. So, okay, you do those 3 coordinates. That's this corner. So that's the first corner. It's only the first 3 numbers. So now we have that. And whenever I do it in chat, I always make sure to press enter so it saves it in chat, just so I can go over to the next corner and I have it in chat again when I autofill it. And now you do the next, and if that happens, just delete that. And now I'm going to do the next 3 coordinates, and voila. Now you have all 6 coordinates, the first 3 for one corner, the next 3 for the next corner. So now I'm going to choose a block that I wanted to fill it with. And for this, I'll just choose grass. Grass. So I'll do it grass _ block, and boom. That's all I have to do. And now if I go back, if you autofill like I taught you, then let's do stone. Let's choose it to be stone. Boom. Now it's stone. And if you want to get rid of it, then you can just do air. And now it gets rid of it. So that's all you have to do for the slash fill. Again, pretty simple. It just takes time to get used to. And that's it for the first 10 commands. That's like some of the simpler commands. There's a lot more I could show you that are easy, but those are some of the main ones that I think you should start learning, because those are very important for making maps. So we're going to move on to the next section. Okay, so now it's time for the next section. So I'm going to use keyboard for this. So now we're going to move on to the command block, which is probably what you're, trying to learn here. I just wanted to show you the commands that you could do in chat because it's easier to do that. So here's the command block. So this is the hover note. Whatever you type here will show up on top. So we'll just call this test. Or make that capital. We'll just call this test. So this seems really confusing. Once you really learn it, it gets pretty easy. So here's the block type. So there's impulse, chain, and repeat. So impulse, basically, here we'll put a command in here first. So I'm just gonna do /say test. So just watch along with me. So I'm gonna get a button. Okay, menu's broken. So I'm gonna get a button. So I'm just gonna put that on top. Okay. So when I press that, it does test. It does say test, and it says that it has that test. So if I were to do, let's say, test 1. So if I do test 1, if you notice in the top left, so the first one said test because that's the name of the command block. Now it says test 1 because I changed the name for the /say. So now I'm going to change it to a chain. If you notice, it won't do anything. So chains, think of a chain like an actual chain, like the chain itself. So a chain, I gotta visually show you if I were to do this. So if I do this, for example, so the first one, you would want it to be impulse. So chains, they need to be always active. Chains need to be always active, no matter if the first command is a impulse or repeating. The chains always have to be always active. So what these are for is, I'm going to put this on, I'm just going to give you guys an example. So this will be a 10 tick delay, which is half a second. 20 ticks is 1 second. And 1200 ticks, which is 1200, is 1 minute. So knowing this, if I put a button here, alright, do you see that delay there? So first it did this one, then it waited half a second, and then it did these two. So that delay, if it's on execute on first tick, which you can't do that here because you can only do that on repeating. But since it's executing on the first tick, since that's off, then once this delay is done, then it activates this one. And since this one is on a 0 tick, then it does this command as well. So now if I put this on a 5 tick delay, Now when I press this, it does the first one, second one, and then the third one comes pretty quick. So here, I'll give you a better example. So we'll do 1, 2, and 3. So let's say you want this to be a countdown. Then what you would do is you would do 20, change this to 20, and then let's say you also wanted this to wait a second. And you put this to 20. So now you have a countdown. 1, 2, 3. And there you go. That's how the chain works. And so that's how delay and ticks work. Always active. And condition, so what this is for is there's conditional and unconditional. So conditional means the command before it, if the command before it doesn't work, as in, let's say it's supposed to /kill a mob. Let's say there's a cow in the map. It /kills the cow, right? So this one actually, like, it does kill the cow. Then this one, since it's on conditional, then it would work. But if the command, if there were no cows to kill, and it doesn't have anything to kill, and it just doesn't do anything, this command won't work. So, if it's on conditional, then the command before it has to be, like, it has to do the command it's supposed to, like, give a player an effect. If it gives that player the effect, then the next command will work. If it doesn't give the player the effect, as in, let's say the player has to be near the command, and the player's not near, and it can't give that effect, then this command won't work, because the command before it doesn't work. But if you do unconditional, no matter what, if that command before it doesn't work, then it'll still activate. So if I were to, it doesn't matter what, you can't use unconditional on impulses, or sorry, you can't use conditional on impulses, so you always keep those on unconditional. But chains use the conditional aspect. I'm not sure if repeating can use conditionals. I've never done that, but I don't think they can. I could be wrong. So that's how conditionals work. Just the command before it has to function or happen, for example, to allow the command that has the conditional to work. So that's how you use chain. And the impulse, it basically only works with a redstone output. So something like a button, a redstone torch, redstone block, a lever, anything like that has to trigger it. So that's how impulses work. And if it's chain, no matter if it's impulse, so if the chain blocks are after a repeating or impulse, it doesn't matter what they are, then they still have their functionality. So now I'm going to teach you repeating. So I'm going to put this on repeating. So obviously it's not doing anything, right? Because it's on needs redstone. So if you want this, so if I press the button, if you notice in chat, it's doing it multiple times. So if I remove that, and let's say you want it to cycle, so you want it to do the countdown, and then after it does the countdown, it waits like a second, and then it does it again. So you would just do the math. So you would have a 20 tick for this, and then you would add 40, then 60, and then 80. So you would put this to an 80 tick, because you're adding the other ticks as well. Because if the delay on this repeating is smaller than these two delays combined, then this will just start again before it even finishes the chain. So you want the delay to be bigger than the delays and all the commands above this repeating combined. So what you're going to do is you just have to, if you want execute on first tick, you could turn that off. So it waits for this to be fully done before it does these two. Or you can just leave it on it. It's up to you. So I'm just going to put this on. Now in chat, it does the countdown, waits a second, and then it does it again. 1, 2, 3. So that's basically how that works. If I turn that off, then it's going to finish. And once it finishes, it's going to do it one more time because the delay, it was still active. So if you have a really big delay, then it will first have to finish, like the delay will have to finish, and then it'll have to activate all the commands. Then after it activates all the commands, after you put it on a needs redstone, then it will stop. So that's how you use repeating. Okay, that's how you use conditional, and then that's what the needs redstone is for. So remember, impulses, if I put this back, impulses don't work with always active. See? If If I push that button, it'll still function, but the always active, as you can see, it doesn't keep running. So the always active, keep that on needs redstone, and that's how you make like a countdown, for example, and that's also how you work the commands. So really, I don't really need to show you any other commands in these, because doing what you did in chat with the commands earlier, basically all you have to do is apply that to the command, but instead of doing @s, which is yourself, you would do a certain selector based on who you want it to apply to. So now I'm going to teach you some more things with brackets after teaching you that. So let's say here, we'll do it in the command here. So I'll get rid of these. I don't need this. And I want this to give @p. Now watch closely, okay? So I'm gonna do this bracket here. So I'm gonna open this. So there are a lot of things you can do with the bracket. I'll just show you in chat first. So these are all of the things. So whenever you're using a selector, it doesn't matter what command it is. If it's applying to a certain target, then we'll just do @p, okay? And we're gonna do that bracket. You can see all of these like what you saw earlier for the when I was killing the cows. So all of those things earlier are here, and they also apply to a player too. So for this, I will show you. Let's do range. So R is range. That's really easy. So all I'm gonna do is give @p R equals, let's do 3 blocks, and I close it off, and I'm gonna give myself an apple. So if I move back, all right, it's on. Put this on a 0 tick. Okay, now it's on a 0 tick. If I move back, press it, I don't get anything, because the radius is on 3. So if I move closer, don't get anything, move closer, now I'm 3 blocks away, gives me the apple. So that's basically how the radius works. So anything around the radius of this command block, when you do this, if it's not in execute and it's not executing on a certain coordinate, then it automatically applies to the command block when you do the radius. So that is radius equals 3, and I give myself that. And so I'm also going to show you another command here. This is also how I'm gonna apply this to the command block. So here's another command that you need to learn. /tag. This is very useful for maps when you're trying to only have a certain thing happen to a certain player who has something unlocked in your map, or is either a certain, like, it really depends on what map you're making. Like, you want a killer in your map. If they have the tag killer, then anything that applies to that tag killer will only happen to them, right? So I'll just show you. So you would do /tag, and I want to give it to myself. Then there's list, add, and remove. List, it just shows all of the tags that the player has, and if you see, I have no tags. So I'm gonna do /add tag, so the tag as add, and then now if you see here, the name. So now I'm just gonna call this test. I'm gonna give myself the tag test, and now if you see, add a tag test to Bedrock 7. So now I have this tag. So first, I'm going to remove it from myself just to show you what it looks like. So you do remove and then autofill test. So since I don't have it on my person, when I do in the command, this is what you do: /tag and then the tag that you want. So I want it to happen to tag equals test. Okay, so I don't have the tag. So now, even though I'm 3 blocks away from the command block, it doesn't do anything because I don't have the tag. So now if I go back and autofill and do add test, now I have the tag, and now it gives me the apple. So that's basically that's pretty useful for like simple stuff in your maps. Though if you have a lot of tags, like over 50 tags in your map, it can get laggy. So try to limit how many tags you have, because having that on a bunch of entities causes a lot of lag. And what I'm going to teach you now, this is very important. This is like one of the most important things when it comes to like learning the brackets. So let's say this applies to anything, like, I don't know, let's like radius, or if you don't want it to happen to a certain thing. So okay, I'll just show you this. So tag equals !test. So this symbol, whenever you have this like after the equal sign and before what you don't want it to happen to, then let's say I also don't want it to happen to people outside of the 3 block radius. So then what you'll do, I'm not sure if this works. Let me see. Okay, so it does not work to that. Okay, I'll show you what you would do instead for this. So let's say I want it to be outside of 3 blocks. Then you would do RM. So RM is the like range max outside of this block. So once it's outside of the 3 block radius, then it'll work. So I'll show you that in a second. So it'll give me the apple if I don't have the tag test and I am outside of a 3 block radius of the command block. So if I press it, it doesn't work. First of all, I'm not outside the radius, and I have the tag test. So if I'm clicking it, see, it won't work. So now if I go back and remove the tag, it'll still won't work because I'm still inside the 3 block radius, right? So if you look here, no targets match selector. Now if I go out of the 3 block radius and click it, then it works. So, and if you notice here, if I go back to the tag here, if I do list, oh gosh, there we go. If I do list, see, I have no tags. And now if I give myself the tag and I do list, has 1 tag, and then it tells me the tag that I have, test. So if I go outside, I'm outside of the 3 block radius, it doesn't work because I have the tag. Now if I remove list, and if I show you list again, see, I don't have the tag, it gives me the apple. And if I go into the radius, it doesn't work because I'm too close. So that's basically how RM works, and that's what the exclamation mark is for. So anytime you have like a type equals and you don't want it to happen, so you want to do a /kill at E. Here, I'll give you that example. So I want to kill anything around. So I want to kill. Here, we won't do a bee. It'll fly away. So we'll do, okay, a chicken. There's a chicken and a cow. So if I do /kill at E, okay, it'll kill everything, right? But let's say I want to kill everything type equals exclamation mark and then item. So it'll kill everything but the item. And I do have armor stands on my map, so I also do not want to kill those. So I'm also going to do this. Armor stand. So if I do this here, it'll kill everything but that apple, which is an item, and besides my armor stands. Now, you see, killed the cow and the chicken. So as you can see, the apple is still alive. If I do it again, they all died. So now I only want to kill just the item. There we go. That's basically it for that. So I pretty much showed you the simpler stuff when it comes to commands, and I showed you the command block. So I think I'll show you one more thing. Here's a really good tip. So when learning commands and you have a map after you've learned commands well enough, there is a very useful technique that I use for my maps to prevent like stuff becoming spamming chat, basically. So there's this game rule. It's called command block output. As soon as every time I make a world, this is the first command I do if it has cheats. I immediately do /game rule command block output false. That immediately makes my map a million times better. I'll show you what that does if it's on true. You see in chat, I have other commands active. For example, this. It's for my money tutorial. Shop tutorial, I should say. Now, you can see all of this. It's just spamming my chat. See, I can't scroll up. It's just spamming my chat. And if I want to get rid of that, I would do false. And now, that doesn't happen anymore. So anytime you have a repeating command block, then it will quite literally, whatever command is happening, it'll put that in chat and tell you what's happening. So if you don't turn that off, you just get like bombarded by these like messages in chat. So that is such a useful command. I can't tell you how many times that has saved my life. So that's a very important command. And let's see, I'm gonna move on to the next category. Okay, now we are on the next category. So whenever you are doing commands, there is a this is like one of the most important commands you can do. It is called execute. Alright, so what that does is, as you can see, executes a command on behalf of one or more entities. So that doesn't really make sense, and it honestly doesn't make sense to me, but I'll show you here. This is like I will just give you, like, if I were you, I would recommend watching an actual tutorial of just execute, because this gets really in depth, but I'll give you a short summary. So align, I honestly am not too sure how to use that. Anchored, also not too sure. That has something to do with your position, but we're going to move on to all of these. So all of these, I'll just tell you what these do. So so what you would do, for example, you would do, when you want it to, here, it'd probably be better if I show you. So execute as @s, run, and then let's do effect. Okay? And then @s, and then, I don't know, absorption. So now I have absorption. And so basically what the thing does is it's executing as me. So here, let me see if it'll tell you what as is. I don't think it will. Yeah, no, it does not. Okay, so as, basically, it's as the entity. So it's the entity itself. So when you do as, that is, how do I explain that? So whatever is the selector for as is what the execute or the command will be targeted on. Okay, that's how you would usually start executes when it comes to applying something to an entity or adding something to an entity. So let's say, for example, I want to set a block on myself. I want to set a oak plank like right above my head. This is how you would do it. So I would do execute as me because I want the block to be placed above me. Then you would do @s. One moment. Okay, so sorry, I was getting invited. So I'll just rewind that. So basically, you'll do as @s, and is your position. So there is another thing called positioned, but that's for like a different scenario. This is at the person themselves. So you would do @s, all right, and now you would do run, which run is basically like starting the command. So this is how the command would now, like, this is how you start what command you want to do. So now I want to do set block. And now before I do above my head, if I just do the tildes, and let's do oak planks. Now, so whenever you do tildes, it's always at your feet. So if you notice when I spawn it, it's always at my lower half of my character whenever I do it. So whenever you want to do 2 above me, then you would do the middle tilde. Then I would do 2, which the 1 would be at my torso, and then 2 would be above my head. So now, if I do that, it's above my head. So that's a short summary of like the easiest stuff you can do with execute. It gets a lot more complicated, but that's like the short run of it. So that's another example that you could do. I'll show you what the other stuff is. So I showed you as, at, facing. That's just if you were to TP a entity and you want them to face a certain coordinate or direction. That's what facing is. Then there's if. So let's say execute if entity. So so if I closed out. One sec. So you would do, let's say if entity. So if there is a cow. Okay, so there's blocks, block, entity, and score. So scoreboard, I'll probably save that for another video. Scoreboard gets really in depth, but entity, you would basically, so let's say if there is a cow in the map, then I'll get, I don't know, resistance. So if entity @e type equals cow. Okay, so nope, autofill, there we go, cow. So if there is a cow in the map, then it will do as @s, which is me, and then run, effect, @s, and then you'll do, and whenever you do @s, if you have let's say you have a execute inside of a command block, then you would, if you had like at A, for example, as at A, then you could do at S inside the command block. That's like the only time you could do at S inside a command block, if the execute is already being applied to a selector, for example. So you do effect at S, and I want to give myself resistance. Okay. Execute subcommand if entity test failed. So what that means is it didn't work because there's no cow. So if I put the cow on the map, now I have resistance. So execute is one of the most important commands. It helps you big time. So like I just showed you, execute if entity at E, type goes cow, as at S, which is myself, and then it gave me the resistance. So I'm going to now kill the cow. I don't need it. So I killed the cow. Okay. So I still have the effects here. So let me find a old thing where I can remove. I went too far. Let's see, clear. Okay, so they already went away. So now I will show you how to execute a command if a block exists. So let's do a barrel, for example. So if I look at the barrel, this is how I will autofill the coordinates. So looking at this barrel here, I'll do execute if block, and then now I can just autofill the coordinates, which is the block that I'm looking at. Okay, those are the coordinates of the barrel, and now I'll just do barrel. Okay, now I'll do run, and then I'll just do say, and then Y. So as you can see, the barrel exists. So now if I get rid of it, if block test failed. So if I put the barrel there, and it works. Now if you really want it to be specific, you could also do this. Barrel facing direction equals 0. Boom. Run, say, Y. Now, if block test failed, so now I'll just keep going around. I don't know which way is 0. I'll just do this. It might be facing down. Here. Yeah, let's try this. There we go. So, that is a short summary of how you do execute. So, since the barrel is on 0, which is, I guess, the facing direction, which is down, it will say Y. So now if I don't know, change the direction from that to 1, now it won't work, because it's not facing the right direction. Now, again, I don't know which way is 1. It's probably going to be this way. Okay, so I guess it's facing up. So, yeah. Is it not? That is weird. Facing... Oh, I'm a dumbass. It's because I didn't do 1 the whole time. Okay, so yeah. Basically, facing direction equals 1, and then it'd be facing upwards. So that's basically how you use execute. That's a short summary of it. And I guess I'll leave the video here. If you guys have any questions, this is a long video because commands are, I guess, not easy to learn. So, using what I've taught you, try making a little system, a counter, like a I don't know, a time countdown, or make a execute where whenever you press a button on a command block inside the command block, it'll execute on the nearest player and it'll place a block above their head using what I taught you earlier. So, after you've learned all that, that's my phone, don't worry about that. After you've learned all that, I would definitely look at other tutorials. If requested, or I might just do it later. I don't have time, but I will do a scoreboard and or an execute tutorial teaching you how either of those work, because those go way in depth and take a long time to learn, and execute definitely took me a few days to get the hang of. So that's basically how you do most commands. It can go way more in depth, as I said earlier. So this was just a short tutorial. I hope this guide helped you guys learn some new stuff. It's definitely hard to get used to, but once you start doing commands more often, because I've been doing commands since 2017, so I've been doing them for a long time. So once you really start getting your foot in the door and just forcing yourself to learn this stuff, over time, you'll get good at it. And if you're curious, the first command I ever really got good at was TP. So basically, that's the guide. and I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please, again, any questions, comment below. This is going to be a long video, I know, but I hope you guys enjoyed. All right, take care, guys.